First contact in any galaxy is a terrifying thing. First contact with something you do not understand. Now that is something worse. And for the Confederacy of Independent Systems, they have already had the misfortune of learning that lesson the hard way. One of their vessels did escape the massacre above Excarga, barely, carrying with it fragmented data and a growing sense of something deeply, fundamentally wrong. That engagement, though, would later be recorded in the CIS archives under a far more insidious name: the Blackening of Excarga. But despite the loss of the fleet and the complete domination of the orbital space above the planets, the battle was not over. Not yet. Because while the void belongs to the swarm, the surface of Excarga still lives. For now. The Tyranids, though no one in this galaxy yet knows them by that name, do not wage war like any known force. They do not conquer for territory, nor for politics, and nor for any victory. They descend for one purpose alone: consumption. And while the void is secured, the next stage begins. The planetary assault. Excarga, for all of its industrial importance, is not a fortress world. Its orbital defenses was respectable, yes, but that was for protecting convoys bound for Hyporia. On the ground, its defenses are modest. A mining world, distant, harsh, and largely ignored by the wider war. The kind of place that survives not through strength, but by being forgotten. The planet itself is rather deceptive. From orbit it appears lush, fertile, alive. But that illusion quickly breaks on the surface. Endless storms lash the landscape. Torrential rain floods entire regions without so much as a warning. Lightning splits the sky in violent cleansing arcs. It is a world that feels less like a home and more like something that is constantly trying to wash itself clean. But beneath the mud and the grime lies the true value. Vast mining networks stretch deep into the crust of the planet. Colossal excavations linked by winding tunnels and cavern systems that span for miles. These are not safe places. These are not well-managed places. These are places where mistakes are fatal. Because even deeper below Excarga's surface, there are pockets of something far more dangerous than collapsing tunnels or cave-ins. Gas. Not ordinary gas, mind you. Not something you simply choke on and escape from. This is Volcrath vapor. At first, its effects are subtle. A minor headache, pressure behind your eyes. Your muscles begin to ache. Your breathing becomes difficult. Then the real damage begins. Eyes flow crimson red. Lungs rupture from within. Blood fills your airways. The body begins to break down muscle, bone, and tissue liquefy under its influence. And if that wasn't enough to raise your concern, the gas is highly volatile. One spark, one tiny ignition, and it detonates with catastrophic force. Most who encounter it do not survive. But one most certainly did. The planetary governor of Excarga, a native to the world, a miner who clawed his way up through luck, resistance, and one very special moment that should have killed him. His name, Governor Vanc. Years ago, deep within the mines, Vanc would have died like so many others, caught in a Volcraft pocket with no warning. But he had something most did not. That was not by accident. But long before that day, Vanc had already learned not to trust the systems meant to keep him alive. The detection droids, cheap, poorly maintained, and often ignored by those above, had failed before, but not just once. Once would have been enough, though. His father had been among those lost in a collapse deep within the lower shafts. A gas pocket breach without warning. No alarms, no signals, just eerie silence. And then fire. The droids had reported that area as stable, safe, clear. However, they were wrong. And from that day forward, Vanc trusted instinct over machine. But one day though, either through coincidence or something more, he noticed something unusual on the surface. A small, dainty creature, reacting before danger had even arrived. The Scraith Warden. A fragile, slightly rare species, attuned to the Force in a way no one fully understands. Not powerful, not sentient in the way most would recognize, but aware, instinctively aware. When danger approaches, it reacts, it chirps, it panics, and it warns. Miners mocked him, as they do, when he brought one down into the shaft. A superstition. A fool's comfort, something to cling on to in that darkness. He ignored them, and with its smaller lungs, it succumbed to toxins far faster than any miner could. That bird, though, that bird saved his life. It warned him just before the gas pocket was breached. He ran, not fast enough to escape unscathed, but fast enough to survive. The explosion that followed carved a permanent scar across his body. A reminder, a lesson. From that day forward, though, he vowed to change things. The Scraith Warden replaced unreliable detection droids. Safety protocols had been improved. Conditions, while still harsh, became more survivable. And when Vanc eventually rose even further through the ranks after a fortunate mineral discovery, he carried even more changes with him. Excarga became better. Still dangerous, still unforgiving, but better. And now, none of that matters, because the sky is falling. The first signs are not understood. They are not recognized as an invasion. Not at first. The sky simply changes. Clouds thicken beyond natural limits, turning from a storm of gray to something darker, something alive. Lightning crackles, but not in random arcs, structured, almost rhythmic, as if the atmosphere is reacting to something descending through it. Then the impact comes. Not ships, not pods in any conventional sense. Organic meteors, myceliac spores smash into the surface with wet, rupturing force, embedding themselves into the mud and the stone before splitting open like a deceased fruit. From within the pods, the first wave grunts. Thousands at first, then tens of thousands, then so many that counting them simply becomes irrelevant. Termagants strike forward, bioweapons already firing in a twitching, instinctive burst. Hermagants follow, faster and more vicious, leaping over their ranged counterparts in a tidal wave of claws and teeth. Above them drift shapes, blotting out already darkened sky. Spore clouds rain down particular death that chokes lungs and clogs machinery alike. This is not an attack. This is an ecosystem being deployed. But fortunately for our defenders, the weather, for once, becomes their ally. Rain begins to pour, mud thickens, movement slows. Even the swarm is hindered, but only slightly. And that slight delay is indeed enough. Hours. Simply hours. But enough to organize. Enough to prepare. The main city of Cathar's Reach becomes the focal point for the defense. It is not a beautiful place, neither elegant nor refined. It is a brutalistic construction of industry and necessity, carved into the side of a vast mining bastion. Towers of dursteel and concrete rise in uneven clusters, covered by thick, transient lines of reinforced plating. The entire city is encased by a colossal flood wall, designed not for war, but for survival against the planet itself. These walls become its only hope. They are immense, dozens of meters thick at their base, layered with reinforced plating and industrial support structures designed to withstand the crushing pressure of seasonal flooding. Their surfaces are scarred from years of weather and abuse, cracks worn, but not unbroken. Now they are manned. The bulk of the garrison is redirected here. Around 10,000 B-1 battle droids line the upper ramparts. Their rifles are already trained outwards. 2,000 B-2 super battle droids stand behind them, heavier, slower, but devastating in sustained fire. Armored columns of AATs and their support vehicles are positioned in key choke points within the city's interior. And a reserve force of Excarga's organic population, filled of miners, workers, and anyone capable of holding a weapon. These are not soldiers, but they will hold the line. But the most important structure is to the left of the city. Alright, you bloody legends, I hope you enjoyed that because I certainly did. And yes, the astute among you may have noticed that that episode ended a little abruptly. Well, lads, that is because apparently I'm a complete and utter idiot who got a wee bit too ambitious for his own bloody good. Turns out, animations take an absolute ungodly amount of time to make. Who would have thunk it? And of course, because the universe enjoys bullying me personally, I also got ill halfway through making this bastard. Hay fever really sucks. So the big fight, the truly insane part, the full fall of Excarga, and the absolute horror of the Tyranids, that is being saved for next episode. Trust me lads, I'd rather take the time to properly execute that, and not rush it out. Now, obviously, whether the next episode happens completely and utterly depends entirely on how well this performs. Thirst animation did absolutely amazingly well, so hopefully this one does too. Until then though, we're still doing some normal videos. Probably another 2 or 3 before I dive headfirst into this animation madness. Though, I may have a special project brewing in the background, a particularly strange one. We shall see. But anyway lads, thank you genuinely for all the support on these animations so far. Seeing people enjoying these weird crossovers just as much as I do has been absolutely bloody mental. And if you've enjoyed this one, make sure to smash that like button harder than a Tyranid biopod smashing through the planetary atmosphere. Subscribe to the channel and let me know down below what you thought of this episode. I do try my absolute best to read all of these comments, and especially on these projects I try very hard. But if you're feeling especially unhinged, remember I also have a Discord server full of absolute lunatics from across the globe. We discuss lore, heresy, war crimes, and occasionally actual sensible conversations. So feel free to join that as well. But with all that being said, lads, remember, even in outer space, the weather still hates you personally. Now have a killing day, you bloody legends, and I will see you in my next one.